We're on to step 2, which is creating your outline for your vector landscape. I've started off here just with my login, and that's really it. If you look up here at the top right, I just have my file, first name, last name, vector landscape. .ai. You'll see that my stock photo I've deleted. As long as I've embedded it, everything should be okay. So what we're going to do is double click this and it'll automatically open up your file in Illustrator. So this way you don't even have to pre-open Illustrator. Double click it and there it is. You'll notice that I have my completed version of the outline ready to show you in just a bit over here. These are called tabs, just kind of like an internet browser tab. You can switch between them if you have multiple files open in Illustrator at once, but generally speaking, I really only have one ever. This is really just to show you. If I was just working by myself, I wouldn't have two open, almost ever. All right, what you should be looking at anyway is your photo. Maybe a little bit of it should be going outside of your canvas, that little black outline. And let's go over to our layer icon right here and double check that it's just called stock photo. What we want to do is we actually want to lock this layer because we never really ever want to work on it again. This photo is just a reference and it will not even be shown in the final print. This is just for us, the designers, to kind of look at as we work. There's this little eyeball icon right here. Visibility is really what this does. If I click it, it didn't delete my photo, it just kind of hid it. So if I bring it back, you'll see that it's there. There's a little empty square to the right of the eyeball. And this will lock it. You'll see that if you click inside that square, there'll be this little padlock icon. This will disable you from editing the layer, which is perfect because that way no accidents can happen. If you do anything on your photo, sometimes in some projects, it's literally ruined and you have to start over. Other times, it's a huge headache, but you can work around it. This is in the huge headache territory, probably teetering on ruined. So please make sure that you go ahead and make sure this padlock is shown. Next, we want to make a brand new layer for your completed outline. I'm going to go down here to the bottom right of my little pop-up layer window, and you'll see one that's with a little plus sign. I guess there's two, sublayer and new layer. We want this one right here that says create new layer if you hover over it. So go ahead and click that, and you'll notice that layer 2 will appear most likely above the stock photo. If for whatever reason it appeared below, you can always click and drag on a layer and then kind of like move it above or below to kind of relocate it. We're going to double click on layer 2 and we're going to name this outline. And then you can hit enter. We don't want to lock this because we're going to be working on this. We also I can show you this right now. I might have showed you this in a prior project. Sorry if I have, along with everything else. This has a blue color to it, and this has a red. That's just for you, the designer, to help you kind of notice the differences between your layers. If you double click here where it says name, what I did, I'm sorry, I double clicked not on the text, like in the open space by the text. And then color. You can change it to a lot of different colors. Something that might help you on stock photo is dimming the image, where if you click dim image to 50%, I personally liked for mine 70 and then hit OK. This will help you see things in your image a lot better as you draw the black outline. So you can still dim the image while it's locked, by the way. So you might want to go ahead and dim your image a little bit. If your image is really dark, you probably want to dim it down to 50%. If it's lighter like mine, 70 is pretty good. Somewhere in between if you want to be, find the sweet spot. All right. Make sure that you have the outline layer selected. You can tell that because it has like a blue color to it, whatever layer that you have selected. What we're going to do is we're going to be using the brush tool today. The brush tool is located over here on your tools, right there, called paintbrush tool. Alternatively, the hotkey for that is B. So you could just hit B, or you could physically click on it. You'll notice if you click and hold, there is the Blob Brush tool. I don't really use that ever, so don't worry about that. You just want the standard one. And I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do a little bit of demo up here on the mountains. So I'm going to hit Command and then plus to get a really good zoom in. Something you'll notice is the zoom percentage down here in the bottom left, 200%. If I hit it again, I'm 300, I'm 400. I think 200 to 300 is a good percentage to work in when doing your outline. It is always good to zoom out periodically and look at your work, kind of like a painter would take a step back from their painting. So periodically do zoom out. Just make sure that you're not like hyper focused in an area and you're kind of like missing content. The other thing with Illustrator is moving around, just kind of how I am doing this right now. What I'm doing is I'm placing 2 fingers, my index and my middle finger, on the Mac trackpad. I'm not pressing down, I'm just placing them there. And then I'm moving them around, like I'm swiping them around the trackpad. This is awesome. This is why, honestly, this is probably why people prefer working in Adobe products on Macs, is their trackpads are just generally better than Windows trackpads. If you have a mouse, you could, just kind of like take the selection tool or the direct selection and just kind of shimmy around. But honestly, man, like this is the best, I think, or most streamlined way to move around. All right, brush tool. What it does, let me just show you. I'm going to click and draw and drag around. You'll see this black little line appear, but if I let go, you'll see that it appears as just a black line. If you ever make a mistake, you can do edit, undo. It'll say what I just did, or you could hit Command Z. Let me do something else again, and then Command Z. Before you brush, you will notice that you have a black stroke down here. These are like your color samples, and a white fill. You'll also see it up here as well. The good news is that immediately when you draw a line, it knows that you're trying to draw a line. It knows that you're not trying to fill it in, so it will delete that for you. But let's just have good practice here. Up here where it says fill, where it's white, click on this and you'll see all these different colors. Go up here to the top left and choose none. We don't want to fill, we just want outlines. As for the stroke, something I've noticed is that sometimes it's 1 point right now. I want it a lot smaller, so maybe I'll go 0.5, but you'll see that it didn't actually change anything. In prior versions of Illustrator, it worked. I don't know if this is like a current glitch, if you're experiencing this alongside of me, but don't worry, I have an easy fix. On your keyboard, we want to make our outlines a lot smaller. They were pretty chunky black lines. On your keyboard, to the right of the letter P, there's a left and right bracket. The left bracket makes your brush tool smaller. The right bracket makes it bigger. I want these lines not microscopically small, but not as big either. Like this is a pretty good size here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw around and I'm looking for color difference here. And I'm going to close my shape. So again, there's some light that pokes through there, no big deal. What the big thing is as you draw these lines, or not lines slash shapes, you want to make sure there's no holes. This is why sometimes zooming really far in is nice. We're going to be paint bucketing these shapes individually later, and if there are any holes in these shapes, the paint tool will go outside of them and like completely take over your whole canvas. So be careful as you're going around to make sure that you have no gaps in any of your shapes. If you do, like let's say I draw here and I'm like, I let go, you don't have to redo the entire thing. I can zoom in and I can just take this and kind of continue from where I was and close the gap. You don't really need to be super concerned about it. Something else that you can do is pretty cool is you can add shapes and shapes. I think this makes excellent design work. I see there's some lighter green up there, so I liked doing that and having little pockets inside things. Like maybe I want to take all of this first right here, this gray rock, but there's a dark section, like a shadowy bit, so I take that and leave little pockets of shapes like that. Bigger areas like this bigger mountain, or especially when you're down on the beach here, you really want to make the areas bigger. It will help you. Make sure though that you connect your lines. You can always hide the stock photo by clicking the eyeball and checking. So sometimes it does help to work zoomed out to make your areas bigger as you go around. The other bit, I guess, is the last thing I want to say. Technique-wise, like physically drawing these shapes on the trackpad. this is the what I recommend is if you are, we'll go over right-handed folk first. What I recommend is that using your left index finger, you press down on the trackpad and just leave your finger pressed down. Then use your right index finger to move around. This way you don't have to have your finger held down as you're drawing around. If you are left-handed, do the opposite. I'm doing this live, so I am right-handed, so this might look not as good of a selection. Hold down with your right index finger and move your left index finger around to select things, and then let go of both fingers when you're done the line. That way, because if you're just using one finger held down, like you're pressing down with your right index finger, and then maybe you're drawing around with your right middle finger, that could get a little weird. And the worst one to do, in my opinion, the big culprit, is pressing down with your index finger and moving it around the trackpad at the same time. That can get pretty sloppy pretty fast, so be careful with that. All right, that's enough talking for the day. You're going to have a lot of studio time to do this. This is the bulk of your project. This is a finished example of line. These are all my completed lines. Oh, I'm so glad I caught this, or looking at this. Something I really want to say. Remember how I was saying to close the shapes that you draw? I close them even outside of the canvas as well, because you'll notice I forgot to right here. See how this doesn't have a closure to it? I think there's also one on the other end. Yes, right here I also forgot. I wasn't able to paint bucket these areas because of that, because there was no closure. The paint bucket glitched out and just was like, I can't paint here, man. It goes outside the canvas, or it goes to infinite. You don't want that. So make sure that even though if it goes outside the canvas, you still have to close your shape off. It can look a little sloppy out here because no one's going to see it but you, like it doesn't print. So don't worry about it, what it looks like. Just make sure that you close the shapes even if they go outside the white rectangle, like when I have the stock photo hidden. All right. When you have some progress made today, to save your file, this is the last little bit, file, and you don't have to do save as this time, you can just do file save. So I'll give everybody a reminder, but you're going to have quite a few amount of classes here to just work on getting this done. So good luck, guys. Take care. And the next tutorial video will occur when we are done the outline.